This is just an example. I mean, I could go on for hours saying such examples. But this is one message, that this was a rescue plan for the banks. And of course, it's not only the Greek banks, it's the European banking system. Because the old story, and what you don't hear in the media, is that in 2010, maybe 90% of Greek debt was in the hands of private institutions, mainly banks. After the application of all these the transformation of loans and agreements, what will happen is that, and that will be sometime in 2014, 2/3 and more than 2/3 of the Greek sovereign debt will be at the hands of governments, so taxpayers. And the bill is going to be paid from them, because the sovereign debt of Greece remains a debt that cannot be served, so the people of Europe are going to be asked to pay for it. That's the first message. The second message is that austerity is the worst thing that I mean, even if I say it objectively as an economist, that I want to evaluate a policy to tackle the crisis, I would say that austerity is the worst thing that you can do in the middle of the crisis. What you saw, the policy that they wanted to apply in Greece was not what they called internal devaluation. So Greece has to be more competitive in order to get money and be able to repay the debt and the economy to work. So what they did is that because they can't devalue the currency, they said, okay, let's devaluate. Let's do internal devaluation. Internal devaluation officially means a serious reduction of labor costs, but also prices. Now, labor costs were slashed, and actually wages of people were slashed, but prices not. And this had the predictable effect that also the crisis of the way they started tackling the crisis of 1929 had, and the effect of all such austerity policies when they're applied in times of recession. So, decreasing of consumption, less economic activity, more than 100,000 business closed. Unemployment at this moment is at 21%. For young people under 25, it's 51%. At this moment, actually, the working people in Greece are less than the non-working, and it's not because they're lazy. On the other hand, people that are working, they are working practically on salaries that nobody can live on. 500 euros, 380 euros. A newly hired teacher gets 560 euros. Sky-high taxes, non-progressive taxation, and actually it's the poor and the middle class, which is no longer a middle class, that are paying these taxes. And then you have, even in objective figures of the economy, so GDP growth rate, unemployment, and things like that, it's going worse and worse. So it was a 3.5% reduction of GDP, drop in GDP in 2010. Then it was a 5.5. So far, the data that we have so far for 2011, it's projected at 6.5 at least for 2012. So the second is that austerity doesn't work, and the third, which I think that it will be a topic to discuss later, is that in this Europe. And in the way, and this Europe is not just an idea, is this European Union, this Eurozone, Euro as a common currency and whatever it means, it is a mechanism. It is a mechanism for a distribution of income in terms of in favor of the rich. It's a mechanism to apply reforms that are in favor of the elites. It's a mechanism that brings to more poverty, more disaster, more inequality, and this we will find in front of us. Thank you.
Yiorgos, please.
Yes. Thank you very much for the invitation as well. I would like just to add to what Dimitris said. I think it's pretty clear we're talking about a social disaster in Greece in the last 2 years. Just two shocking elements of the last bailout agreement that was agreed with Greece in the memorandum that accompanies the loan agreement. The first was that the Commission and the IMF and the Central Bank, they explicitly say that the wages in Greece should now be compared with the ones of the other Balkan countries, South or Eastern European countries, and Portugal, and no any other country in Europe. So the wages in these countries are around 200 euros. The minimum wage is less than that. So it's a clear expression of the race of the bottom of wages that the current Eurozone is imposing to people, which is directly opposite from the promise that was made to citizens of Europe when the EU was created back in '92, that was convergence, that the poorest societies in Europe would converge with the richer ones and would have a social welfare and social and economic level closer to the richest one. It's exactly the opposite that is happening, and it is declared that it is this way, that people should, in order to compete, should comply with lower wages. The second shocking element was a proposal by the Troika to introduce a clause in the Greek constitution that says that the priority, that state revenues should by priority be going to the service of the dead. So before covering the needs, the social needs of the population, state revenues should go at servicing the dead. It's a third world approach, a colonialist 60s approach, which is going even against the principles of the United Nations. With the figures that Dimitris mentioned, if we want to sum it up, it's the worst social catastrophe that the country is experiencing since the World War II. There was never such a big collapse of standards of living in such a short period of time than the one that the Greek people experienced in the last 2 years. So the elections that came in the 6th of May, they were, of course, they didn't came as a gift. The Greek people have made clear that they didn't want to be governed by the socialists or then by the coalition, the three-party coalition, since long time. In November 2011, they practically reinversed the government of Papandreou with a 48 hours strike and then with protests during the